Alright, so we're looking at the traditional and contemporary management of the alpine zone of the Kosciuszko National Park. So the management philosophy of conservation drives the New South Wales National Parks and Wildlife Services management principles within the alpine zone of Kosciuszko National Park. In 2006, the Australian government introduced a plan of management for Kosciuszko National Park in order to address the risk factors that are facing this alpine ecosystem. As you can see here on the screen, the key driving principle of the plan is to maintain and improve the condition of the natural and cultural values that together make the park a special place. So balancing recreational access and environmental sustainability is a key area of management for the National Parks and Wildlife Services. By zoning the alpine area of Kosciuszko National Park as high use, they're able to mitigate the negative human impacts of this alpine environment posed by tourism. So there's been various works put in place to minimise this human impact, and these include some which you can see on screen, which are the raised steel walking platforms in high-risk areas, as these reduce the tourist footfall impacts and stop vegetation destruction by encouraging visitors to stay on established pathways. The other image you can see there from our time in Kosciuszko is of a foot and a bike washing station, which limits the introduction and spread of invasive species. So additionally, there's been the recent use of hawkweed detection dogs by the national parks in order to find and eradicate the orange hawkweed species, which pose a serious biodiversity threat to the park. Additionally, on the screen you can see there a picture of the toilets put in at Rawson Pass, and these toilet facilities are used to lessen the impact of human waste on the alpine ecosystem. We'll just go back a bit. So this tourism infrastructure is put in place to enable both intra-generational equity and community access to this site, and intergenerational equity by preserving this natural environment for future generations to enjoy. Other efforts by the national parks are the introduction of legislation that places limits on overnight visitor numbers and long-term research zones aimed at understanding the ramifications of climate change on the alpine zone of this park. So now onto traditional management. So the concept of traditional land management revolves around the idea of stewardship. So stewardship denotes a sense of responsibility placed upon the individual to care for the land or country. Many Aboriginal groups, including the Wurundjeri and Ngunnawal peoples, and so these peoples have inhabited this land and still retain strong spiritual connections with the mountains. So Indigenous use of the Alps was primarily for travelling routes, camps and meeting places. The Bundian Way is the traditional Aboriginal track that connects the coast of Eden, as you can see on the map there, to the top of Mount Kosciuszko. The seasonal exploitation of the bogong moth, there's a picture of those down the bottom, was a major reason for Aboriginal visitation to the high peaks and ridges of the Snowy Mountains. Other natural resources derived from this area include plants that were used for making medicines and fibres for basket making. The alpine area of Kosciuszko was also used as a transitional zone, as opposed to an area of permanent habitation. So any settlement that occurred was took place in lower altitudinal zones that were more protected from the weather and the elements. So this form of traditional management is highly sustainable, as a collection of resources was done in a limited and controlled way, and only at certain times during the year. This traditional management did not degrade the environment, but allowed for both intragenerational and intergenerational equity, ensuring the longevity of the alpine zone of Kosciuszko National Park for future generations to enjoy.